Hey everybody, welcome back. Or if you're it's your first time, welcome in general. Today I want to talk about classes, what they are, and this is mainly aimed towards beginners who might not be familiar with the idea of what these classes are, and more specifically how they relate to fifth edition D&D. So here we go. Role playing versus role playing. This seems confusing, but I'm going to try to break it down for you. Inside of most all of your tabletop role playing games, there are three pillars that are support the game, and that's going to be combat, uh, exploration, and social. The role you play is going to be important because when you're getting together with your friends, you want to make sure that most of these roles are covered, and these are the roles that are listed here. Um, Oddly enough, all of these roles have to do with combat, and only one has to do with exploration and social. We'll cover that. So, what do you want to play? Blasters. If you have the overwhelming urge to absolutely nuke everything in front of you, Blaster is probably for you. No judgment. There's nothing wrong with that. If you much more like the idea of weakening your enemies by casting debuffs, holding them in place, or controlling them and making them your personal minions, or reshaping the battlefield to your specifications to hinder foes and to help your allies. A controller might be up your alley. Again, no judgment. Defenders, these guys are the frontline melee fighters. Your job as a defender is to get in there, hit things, and get hit by things. So if you are not squeamish, then defender is going to be for you. I'm going to skip this one here, but we're going to go to support. So support is kind of the other side of the coin for the controller. Instead of debuffing enemies, you're going to be buffing your allies. You're also going to be in charge of healing them. So you don't have to have healing to be able to support. You don't have to be able to support to have healing. That's an important distinction. I do want to let you know that if your role is the healer, try to do all of your healing before or after combat. And the way you do it before is by giving your party temporary hit points. So basically, if you buffed your party to have temporary hit points, the first time they get hit, that's essentially free healing because they're not as they haven't taken any hit points yet. They're chipped off of their extra. That's a great idea. You should always be looking for ways to do that. Buff up your temporary hit points. Um, and then after combat, like after the combat's done, the dust is settled, you want to pick up anybody who's really hurt, get them topped off for the next fight, or close. Um, if you have to in an emergency, obviously you want to heal in the middle of combat. But as a combat medic, we always said that the best medicine on the battlefield is more bullets. You don't want to go out into a treatment scenario until you have battlefield superiority. That's real world tactics and it works in real games as well. So, my love for healers, supporters, my personal professional role as a healer supporter, that's all I'm going to say about that. Striker, this guy is my favorite. The way I classify strikers, they have reliable high output damage. Most classes have an ability to Nova to get big numbers, and that's great. I think a striker should be able to do that more reliably than once per round. Once every turn, once every other turn, you should be able to count on them to throw up high numbers in a reliable way. So yeah, now, the face utility. Face slash utility is social slash encounter. Those are the two pillars of gaming that should be equal with combat, but unfortunately they are not. And they just, from a systemic design, you know, if you look at your player's handbook, your DMG, anything like that, most of your role playing manuals, especially in D&D, the bulk of that book is dedicated to combat. There might be maybe 5% of the book that is devoted to exploration and social. and support. You might see maybe a little bit more of that if you want to count some of the feats, but even most of the feats and backgrounds is just like how do we get to combat and how do we excel in combat once we're in it? And even most of your social and exploration designs are there to get you into the next combat. So the face utility guy, his role in the campaign is pretty much everything outside of combat. And that doesn't mean you can't do it in combat. It's just you're really going to shine outside of combat. And as you already see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different roles. 1 out of 6 is designed for social and exploration. Yeah, that's about the average you're going to find in most manuals. About a sixth of your resources are going to be dedicated to those concepts. So, all right, more than 5%, but sue me. All right, let's get into it. Biggest decision you're going to make: martial versus magical. Do you want to cast magic or do you want to cast hands? In this video, we're only going to be dealing with martial classes. I'll have more videos on the magic and the hybrids. Um, you will notice that the bard I have put in a hybrid class. They are in fact full casters, but I think they more have a hybrid play style. They are the face utility and the spellcaster, so they can build pretty much any way they want. In my mind, they're the hybrid between your rogue and your caster. We'll do more about that later. Also, the warlock. I know what a warlock is. I just really have no idea how to classify these guys. They are definitely casters, but yeah, that's another video. All right, let's get into it. Barbarians. What comes to your mind when you think of a barbarian? Most people, and I've got this listed here as the misgivings. They're big, they're dumb. All they know how to do is fight, and I don't like that. They are that they can be that, but they're not limited to that. These guys are very much quintessential defenders. Um, they have D12 hit point, which is they're the only class to get to D12. I don't like that. It stands out as odd as a design from a design perspective, but they have it. We're just going to embrace it. Their reckless attack feature, it lets you get advantage when you attack people, but it gives the opponent an advantage to attack you. So this is going to incentivize the foes on the battlefield to want to go after you because to them, you're gonna be an easy hit. But you're designed to take those hits, and your rage lets you take less damage, and you've got all these hit points. I mean, you were designed to take these hits. This is your role, the defender. Now they do get damage buffs. They generally have high weapon or high damage weapons. They can fulfill the role of the striker if you put special interest into the build, but they're primarily a defender. Um, yeah, that's what we got to say about that. So rage, I want to talk about rage. When we're talking about the misgivings, that's kind of one of the things that come up is the idea of rage. When I go into rage mechanically, I am just this blind, seething hatred. I can't concentrate on anything other than smashing. And if I'm not smashing, I'm in threat of losing my rage. That's what the mechanics say. And I really want to talk about this because this is an important concept moving forward. The mechanics as they're written tell you what you can do, but the flavor is up to you. I've talked to a couple of different people about this. Role playing very interesting barbarians. And that was one thing that we didn't talk. So role playing in the first one was playing to your role in your party, like we covered. This is the role play as in when I'm imagining how my character would act in a situation based off their background, based off of their personality. What would you do in any given situation? That's the second type of role playing. That's the role play is one word. So when we're looking at rage, I put Porthos down here from the Three Musketeers. When I think of him, he's just this jovial brawler. He has a zest for life. He loves to fight. He loves to drink. He loves fine women. None of that says rage to me, but mechanically, I think he perfectly embodies a rager. And for him, instead of that blinding hatred, that seething hate and anger, it's passion. He has such passion for life that he is out there to enjoy it. And I don't care if I get hit. I'm having a great time. He's built to take it. So that's that idea. We're taking the mechanics of it, but we're going to flavor it to something else. I helped a friend of mine build a a kind of an untrained Ronin type of character, and we made him a barbarian rogue. And the way I flavored it is his backstory is that he was enslaved and tortured by demons, and some demon type characters, and he eventually broke free. And I said, well, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have him go into this mindset of just ultimate focus, where he just kind of steps outside of his body for a second and is able to focus on something to where he does not feel the pain. And over the course of his torture, he learned how to harness that singular focus into his rage and all of his class features. And so there's that idea. We're going to take the mechanics of rage, but instead of rage, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to be hyper focused. He cannot cast spells because he is so single mindedly focused on that aspect of combat. It's like I'm not feeling the pain, but I can take this pain and I can use it to fuel the pain that I'm going to inflict in others. And that was the character that we came up with using a little bit of a twisted view of the rage as a concept. So please feel free to take these mechanics, understand what they do, but turn them into something fun. Turn them into something unique and different that is flavorful to you. That is role playing. And before we get into the fighter, because let's go ahead and switch over here. Um, Now we come to the third idea of role playing, and it also applies to your barbarian, and that is you look at the mechanics of what my stats are, how much damage can I put out, and you automatically get the idea in your head. I have to be the best at X, Y. And then if there's anything left, then I'll go for Z. This is the idea of min-maxing, and there's nothing wrong with min-maxing. I don't like it personally because when you design your character to do one thing amazingly well, as a designer and as a GM, I already know that there is a foil for every min-maxer. There is no such thing as a perfect character. But when you build to only do one thing, well, one, that's the one thing that you're only going to be able to do. You're going to be shoehorned into doing that one thing over and over and over again. You're probably going to get bored of it. Two, um, I want to honor your build and I want to let you get away with it to a point. But eventually, as a GM and as a game designer, I have to come for you because if I let you keep going on with your min max build, you're going to break all encounter balance while I'm trying to challenge you specifically. And if you're going to party of other players that are not min maxed, they're not going to be ready for that. And that's going to ruin their fun. So, as a rule of thumb, I try to stay away from role playing. That's the ROLL playing, min maxing. When I do min max, I min max to try to support other characters. I want to be the best at giving the spotlight to someone else. I like skilled players, and the last skill player skill monkey, still skill based characters. The last skill based character, his whole shtick was I can give someone else guidance and advantage on their checks. So my idea of having fun and playing the skill monkey while honoring the idea of min-maxing was to give everyone else the best chance to succeed on their skills. And I had a blast. I'm still having a blast. We're still playing that. I'm still playing that character. So yeah, when I'm min-max, it's to give the spotlight to someone else, not to take it for myself. All right, fighters. So fighters are also going to be a defender primary class. But the great thing about fighters, they're so versatile if you get away from the idea of min-maxing. So when you think about movies, especially action adventure movies, most of your main characters are going to be fighters. Now, our misgiving that I have listed is that fighters are only good at combat and have nothing to offer in exploration or social scenes. Now, if you've watched any of these movies, you look at my Legolas, Link, Captain America. Well, maybe not Link. Link doesn't really have a whole lot of social presence. But you look at these characters, you think about these archetypes, you imagine them in these scenarios, and they do more than combat. They are exploring the environment, they're investigating, they are talking to people, they've got really badass one-liners, they always get the girl. They're more than just combat. Like, combat's a big part of who they are, but they are more than that. And I would like to encourage you to explore other options. Now, the great thing about these guys is they have D10 hit points, they have full armor, that makes them great defenders. They have versatile combat styles. Don't limit yourself to one. Try multiple things. This care class, more than any other, is designed to be able to go have multiple options in combat. You're a tactical battle master. And speaking of which, if I was designing D&D, I would make the battle master subclass part of the core class because it's just so iconic as to what they do. But outside of that, um, again, with the idea of not min-maxing, you've already set up to be a wonderful defender. Feel free to invest in something else. Feel free to invest in exploration or social. Feel free to bump up some of the stats that'll support those ideas or that'll honor those concepts. Look into getting some feats that will let you take more of a role. And that this goes back to that first type of role playing that lets you branch out into a different role, which is why I put that they're a versatile secondary because they are. Of your martial classes, these guys have great potential to be just about anything else. Lean into that. Have fun with that. In D&D, you get action surge very early on, level 1. I mean, this is like your big thing. Um, this is what makes you feel like a fighter. Uh, I would encourage you to find a reliable slot for your bonus action because that's one thing that they are missing in their design. Unless, of course, you made the battle master part of the core class, but that's just me. Anyway, find something fun to do with your bonus action. If you have to multi-class to do it, that's great. Fighters are really great out the box. So are barbarians, very easy to pick up and play. Fighters are definitely while the barbarian is the rough brute who just goes in and bashes. Um, the fighter is definitely going to be the more polished fighter. Has knowledge of all weapons, tactics. Like feel free to play into that samurai, that knight. These guys are masters of battle. Don't play them as such, but that's your big difference between what a barbarian is and what a fighter is. Because on the surface, you might like, yeah, like these guys both do the same thing. They're both defenders, but their play styles can be vastly different. So learn it, lean into the differences, and man, take off. Come up with something fun and creative of your own. So we're gonna move on to monks. So let's start with the misgivings. There are some people that say that monks are OP, that's overpowered. Um, that's not untrue. Reason I say that is because monks have more features than almost any other class, like easy hands down. Um, but monks, people also say that monks suck. That's also kind of true. Um, they have a lot of potential, and their design just misses the mark. It just misses the mark altogether. These guys are meant to be combatants in the front line, but they're given D8 hit points. So they have less hit points than the fighter. They have less hit points than the barbarian. They given a special feature called unarmored training, which means that they always have a way to defend themselves, but it's always less than the barbarian or the fighter, or maybe on par with the barbarian, but you don't have any of the features that let you soak damage. So you're given this odd kit that says you want to go and you want to fight, but you're not really given the mechanical support to do that. And I'm not saying that you can't take a hit, can't be dodgy. I don't know. It's just not as good as the other options. I would definitely stay away from this unless you're a little bit more experienced. You have a firmer understanding of the mechanics and how to take advantage of them. When we're talking about monks, we are thinking the kung fu fighter guy. This is not the Gregorian monks. Um, I think that they're trying to make it more open to where you can have those more Christian monk aesthetic inside of this base class. I think it's a horrible idea. If I was going to play one of those type of monks, I always go back to Friar Tuck from Robin Hood, and I think of him a lot of the same way I think of Porthos. I'd make him a barbarian or a fighter who's just has the religion skill. I mean, that's the way I do that. If I want kung fu, I do this. And if you're not limited to kung fu, like you could definitely think of any style like a brawler, like he's just a straight up street fighter. That could be this guy. He doesn't have to have that kung fu tradition. But we're thinking of kung fu monks when we're looking at this class. So keep that in mind, that context, and then again, build into the flavor that you desire. The good thing about these guys is how off the wall they are. So they're not defenders. They're not really strikers. What they are, I have put up here, is that they're controllers. The best way to play a monk is to realize that these are the masters of chip damage. They do not throw a lot of damage at a single target. Now, if you took all of their attacks and put it on a single target, yeah, it's definitely going to add up. But the best way to utilize your monk is to just absolutely dance around the battlefield and just take out minions left and right. That's who your guy is. Like, especially like if you get to build to a really good grapple build, much like the rogue, like you could absolutely neutralize some of the tougher foes, like the trickier spellcasters and whatnot, by just walking up to them, grapple them, pin them, stunning them, putting them down to where they can't cast. Because if they can't act, man, they're essentially dead. Like this game is really designed around action economy. So taking out the enemy opponent's action economy adds to your victory's chances. So yeah, lots of chip damage versus instead of single high target damage. Um, the other crazy thing about dexterity and wisdom are the major abilities that you want to focus on in this class, and all of the best skills in the game key off of dex and whiz. So they are unintentionally really good at all of the best skills. They make excellent scouts, excellent spies. Um, I mean, these guys are just naturally, mechanically synergize with utility roles. So please don't forget that. That's why I put them primarily as a controller and secondary for utility. Because even though they don't have as many skill points as, say, your rogues or your bards, they just are almost accidentally good at all the best skills. All right, closing out things is rogues. I saved the best for last. Not really the best. In fact, they're really not that great, but they're my favorite, and they always have been. The monks, or I'm sorry, we're talking about rogues now. The rogue is the ultimate utility master, or at least he always has been until the last couple of editions of the bard, and which is why I'm putting bard as a hybrid. But again, we'll talk about that later. We're here to talk about rogues, my favorite class. I love their sheer utility of a rogue. Um, they are wonderful in exploration or social. It is really hard to pull off both exploration and social. So you want to keep that in mind. If you do not have a party face, the rogue makes a wonderful party face. They get expertise, which lets them double down on their awesomeness. They get lots of skills to support that. The one thing that I've found that if you're going to be a face social rogue, you almost always want to have a high wisdom character to back you up with insight. Because that seems to be the problem. You can build dex, you can build wisdom, you can build charisma, but you can't really build all three. You can also build a high intelligence rogue. And, I put Sherlock Holmes down here. Like, they make excellent investigators. I think they even have a subclass that's dedicated to investigate. I mean, rogues are so great because you can literally build them any way you want. Their primary role is as the striker because they get sneak attack, and man, when it comes off, it's awesome. Um, this is they can do this every round. This is the consistent high damage output. The thing about the rogue is you want to make sure that you move yourself in position and out of combat as much as possible. Because while you do have a D8 hit points, just like the monk, you're a skirmisher, not a meat shield. You cannot take a lot of hits. If everyone focus fired on you for one round, you're going to go down. So you've been given a lot of mechanics that are going to let you sneak in, sneak out. When you're stuck, caught between a rock and a hard place, you get evasion, you get uncanny dodge to let you lessen the effects of of being in combat like that. But yeah, so sneak attack. So the best way that you can do this, and we talked about a little bit with the monk, but you want to find the mage and you want to say F you personally. You want to be on him like white on rice and you want to take him down. Because if you're high dex, you're probably going to have a high initiative, which means you're probably going to go before him. You want to get there, you want to put him down and take him out of the fight. Because mages are, I mean, any full caster really, just the game is completely unbalanced to favor them. You are the answer to that equation, that unbalanced equation. So going back to the idea of martial versus magical, magical, absolutely magical. Magical wins every single time, and it's so boring to me. I love martial characters; they are my absolute favorite. Um, but they're just not as good mechanically. And I'm just going to be honest with you on that. That doesn't mean you can't have fun. I'm not trying to say not to play them because, like I said, martials are my favorite. I have the most fun when I'm playing a martial or some kind of hybrid with very limited access to magic. And that's really just to like help me shine in that role even more. But yeah, mages, any kind of full caster, that's like full cheat code. I've got a whole video dedicated to how much of a cheat code they are. So just know it, accept it, understand it, but don't shy away from your marshals because they're plenty of fun, plenty of flavor. And that's gonna bring us to the end of this video. So, like I said, next time we're gonna talk about full casters. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Hit me up. Caleb, this is for you. I hope you find it. Hope you enjoy it. Um, and have fun in your hopefully long role playing career ahead of you. I hope you get up on the level of where you start to game master and start to do your own home brews and start to do some system design. And when you do, look me up because that is my bag. I love it. And I would love to talk to you about it. And that's not just for Caleb, that's for anybody. Hit me up. I love talking about this stuff. And I will meet with you guys later. Have a good one.